All right, just to speak on it. Live interactive opportunity for you to call in here and talk about the issues. Now, I ain't quite sure how we're going to go tonight. I sort of think we're going to open up with a roll in. So I'm a little bit concerned. But as we get ready to come into the conversation, I want to remind people of the fact that this is a whole new era in Chicago. We got a brand new mayor. And as I looked at the mayor yesterday in his inauguration, my heart was refreshed to see this man that appears to have more compassion for some parts of this city than the people that live in the city. The man said some things that, if he's able to pull it off, will be good for the city. That whole issue about schooling. Let me tell you something, Tuck. That man said something that was profound. He said that if a kid in Chicago and a kid in Houston, Texas, and I'm from Texas, so I understand a little of that, start school at the same time in the kindergarten, that kid from Houston, Texas, by the time they graduate, will have gone to school 3 years longer than the Chicago kid. Now, those of y'all that look at this show, I know y'all intelligent. What sense do that make? How can somebody start school at the same age, at the same time, in the same grade, and one end up with 3 years more out of the same frame? It's because here in Chicago, we got all of these in and out of school. They out of school so much in Chicago, no wonder they can't learn too much and they can't retain too much. Then they got this track E, biggest lie in the world. Them kids out of school so much that I don't know how they could ever learn anything. And the man is absolutely right. The school day is probably too short. Surely the school year is too short. And all of them out days is too much. So I'm hoping that the man do a great job. The man is very serious about diversity. Show me some of them pictures up there. That man had so many different type of people involved in his inauguration. I got to say it. He had the cardinal to talk. They say it was praying. Them people weren't praying. He had the imam to run his mouth. Pray, prayer, talk, whatever. Then he had the Baptist preacher. And I think Reverend Jenkins did an excellent job. I'm proud of him, young boy. He up here, he carrying on in Reverend Clay Evans' footsteps. And then he closed out with his rabbi. But I guess I might have been more impressed, but I don't want to bring too much attention to it. I might have been more impressed the way he reached out to them little black boys. He reached out as if he might mentor some of these children. He reached out as if by the time he do his 20-some years as mayor, some of them boys and gals could have a job. Now, I know you've been observing the situation, and I know you saw a little of it. What did you see, Tucker? How did you feel looking at that inauguration yesterday?
Well, I did see that it seems as though he want to be inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know if this is just ceremonial. Once he's in office, the days ahead will tell. It seems as though he has expressed in his whole campaign that he was concerned about education, young people. He said he looked in the eyes of young folks and they did not have the fire or the hope for the future. So hopefully that he will resonate and do some things different than what's been done. But also, more importantly, he talks about a lot of cuts, stuff like that. But, I would venture to say and even challenge the new mayor that he has to deal with Springfield and how they fund education, especially when we are, 59th out of 60 states in funding. That is shameful. So that has to be reversed. He has to look at that lottery money,
Mhm.
how it's supposed to went to public schools, to the schools in Illinois, and that money needs to come to Chicago,
Mhm.
to those needy communities. So if he can get that done, because it definitely needs funding
Mhm.
adequately, fairly across the board. If he can get that done, then I think he'll be very successful, and then we can see some change. But if that does not happen, then it's going to be same old status quo.
Well, part of what he said yesterday is that he's hopeful that the governor going to sign off on the package, because even before he was sworn in, they had cut a deal down in Springfield where his educational reform, or their educational reform, all it needs now is the governor's signature. And the union and others concerning the length of the school year and the date, they all seem to be in some type of agreement as it relates to what they're dealing with. So it looked like he might be successful in some of that. And then when he talked about the police, I liked that. I sort of think that he might not become so accustomed to the activity in the community that we had become accustomed to seeing. Matter of fact, deep in the gut where I live on the west side, I've been seeing policemen, 3 deep, riding their bicycles. Now I'm expecting to see some horses come up in the hood soon, and I think that's a good thing. He brought in this new police chief, and I think that if they begin to show more visibility, caps get resurrected, and if they empower some of the rest of us in the community, I think this man might do something that makes sense. He said something yesterday, and I'm finna get to that in a minute. He said something yesterday that was very profound. He said while he was out there in Roseland, he saw this memorial. They had a couple of 100 dead kid names, waiting for another 150 to be added. And he said that that was an indictment. I used the word indictment. He said it's actually a shame on the living. That really a memorial is supposed to be for those who died in the service of their country, or to that extent.
Right, a celebration,
Yes.
more so.
But here we are showing children that have died from insane opportunities. For him to see that in that area, I think is a good sign. And then his thing about cutting back on, these city employees. I retired from the city, so I ain't gonna say too much about that. Sound like he don't like city employees. I'm glad I ain't there no more, boy, because sound like he hates the hell out of them. Boy, I don't know who dissed him, but he gonna treat the hell out of them because he done made it clear. I don't like y'all, I'm gonna get rid of y'all. Man, y'all should have got out when I could, because I know y'all weren't old enough, poor thing. Because I don't think dude gonna be feeling y'all none. He gonna be knocking y'all out of pocket. Then another thing, he talked about budget and a few things. But I would like to have some of his own flavor, Mr. Jose, if you got that roll in, because I want to just see how he led into some of that.
Richard M. Daley era has ended, and Rahm Emanuel is now mayor of Chicago. The new mayor, along with the new city clerk, city treasurer, and all 50 aldermen, were sworn in this morning at a ceremony in Millennium Park. Eddie Aruza was there for this new chapter in Chicago history and joins us with details. Hey, Eddie.
Well, Phil, by all appearances, the transition went flawlessly, and even the weather cooperated for a change. Not only did many Chicagoans come out to witness the inauguration of the first new mayor in 22 years, but also there was an impressive array of dignitaries, including many foreign diplomats, elected officials, including Governor Pat Quinn and Vice President Joe Biden and his wife Jill were also there. And the official changing of the guard occurred a little before 11:30 this morning, with Chief Judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County, Timothy Evans, administering the oath of office.
And that I will
faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of mayor
of the city of Chicago according to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thus began the mayoral career of Rahm Emanuel. With him were his wife Amy and their 3 children. Only steps away sat his predecessor, as well as a number of dignitaries, including the Vice President of the United States. With the newly installed City Council also looking on, The new mayor heaped praise on Mayor Daley, while at the same time announcing that a new era had indeed arrived.
This morning we leave behind the old ways and old divisions and begin a new day for Chicago. I am proud to lead a city united in common purpose and driven by a common thirst for change. To do that, we must face the truth. It is time to take on the challenges that threaten the very future of our city. The quality of our schools, the safety of our streets, the cost and effectiveness of city government, and the urgent need to create jobs, the jobs of the future right here in the city of Chicago.
The morning ceremony at Millennium Park was framed by a picture-perfect day, even if the temperature remained brisk. Thousands of Emanuel supporters and well-wishers turned out to witness the changing of the guard, but they also heard a notoriously focused and determined man lay out the framework for his agenda, which begins with reforming Chicago's public schools.
To lead our efforts in Chicago, we have a courageous new school CEO and a strong and highly qualified new school board with zero tolerance for the status quo and a proven track record to back it up. As some have noted, including Amy, I am not a patient man. And when it comes to improving our schools, I will not be a patient mayor. My responsibility is to provide our children with highly qualified and motivated teachers, and I will work day and night to meet that obligation.
The new mayor also talked about tackling crime in Chicago, noting the many children that have died in the line of fire.
Kids belong in our schools, on our playgrounds, in our parks, not frozen in time on the side of a grim memorial. Our new police chief understands this. As a beat officer who worked his way through the ranks, and as a leader of a department who dramatically reduced violent crime, he is the right man at the right time for the right job.
But perhaps the biggest challenge facing the new mayor is a city budget with a shortfall estimated at more than $500 million. Emanuel more than hinted at the necessity of service cutbacks and union concessions.
It is not just a matter of doing more with less. We must look at every aspect of city government and ask some basic questions. Can we afford it? Is it worth it? Do we need it? Is there a better deal? Well, we are not the first city government to face these tough questions. It is my fervent hope that we become the first to solve them. The old ways no longer work. It is time for a new era of responsibility and reform. Now, I reject how the leaders in Wisconsin and Ohio are exploiting their financial crisis to achieve a political goal. That is not the right course for Chicago's future. However, doing everything the same way we always have is not the right course for Chicago's future either. We will do no favors for our city employees and our taxpayers if we let outdated rules and outmoded practices make important government services too costly to deliver.
Mayor Emanuel wasted no time in moving into his fifth-floor office at City Hall and getting to work. Only 2 hours after being sworn in, he signed 3 executive orders that put strict guidelines on lobbying with the city and political contributions. But as he signed his first official documents, Emanuel also said that his predecessor left him a note in the desk. Sun-Times City Hall reporter Fran Spielman asked him what it said.
It says, don't ever answer any of Fran Spielman's questions. Especially if you read it from right to left. It was a personal note about the strength of our city, the strength of its people, and that we are a city of optimistic people made up of immigrants from all the communities and all the areas.
Mayor Emanuel won't have much time to ease into his new job. He'll preside over his first city council meeting on Wednesday.